afternoon. I'm still on Los Angeles time. Uh, Welcome to LIGHTBOB TV. Today we're going to talk about source. It's Tuesday, and the subject for today. One thing that I realize is that in my career, what really um, where I had problem was not from bad design. It came because somebody along the line thought that putting equivalent fixtures or substituting lighting product would do the same thing. So basically, equivalency doesn't equal equality, and this is where I thought, well, if I can address and I can look at the subject at least, I'm pretty sure we can, I can share some of that data. And equivalency is where people in their mind, I wouldn't say people, because when you're the client, you don't know. You're hiring professionals, and these professionals come with a solution, and that's what you're paying for. And along the line, some of them bust their budget, some of them don't, some of them come in with these brilliant idea of saving money, uh, and they don't tell you all the story, and this is where you start losing all control, because now you paid as a client, your client paid for something specific. Then the electrician comes in and he said, well, my cousin, or I can get these fixtures or these luminaire, half price. And so of course, like when you look at the overall at the end, it's very hard to point fingers, because the project has been delivered, and the budget is no more, not there anymore, and the quality that you promised your client is not really there, because there's nothing to support it. So again, when we start at the beginning, we value engineering, and we try to bring the best of the best for the solution. Then somebody along the way start to say, okay, well, what if we start to substitute? And what are we going to base this on, the substitution? Well, they said, well, we can give you the same lumen output, and we can match that price. Well, that sounds very, very interesting, and the assumption is very simple, and technically it means the same. But as we saw in the past, in the few past episode, um, and here it is. I told you I would bring some new things along the way. So as we saw in some of the past episode, what happened is that, oh, and I don't even know where that goes. Oh yeah, my YouTube. So you're good. So what happened in past episode is that now that we describe an effect to our client, we said, well, we want to have a beautiful general diffuse. Now, if this general diffuse has a certain amount of lumens, and the the competitor says, okay, I can get the same amount of lumen too, and then our fixtures was, let's say, a glass ball, for an example, and our canopy was sealed and so forth, and it diffused a certain amount of light, and somebody else says, well, I can come with a cheaper, and it will be acrylic, or it will be glass, but the canopy has some opening or so and so, and after a while, the ball get filled up with bugs and stuff. The maintenance and the look and the program that you had promised, and just even the dust from the room inside that glass globe will create a different output. And this is a very dramatic, but it goes a little further than that, and we'll see. So it when people come in with equivalents, it's very unlikely they're gonna come in with line by line items or give you a grid and say this is what the main spec is and this is what our equivalent is equal or even better. Sometimes you can find a better product. So when your people are proposing swap, most of the time it's a very high level comparison, which you can't really judge all the specifics, and it's based on some assumption that the price is the only thing that is driving the project. And of course, the price sometimes not even, or the substitution doesn't even make it to the client, because the client doesn't know. The client is expect to have a high quality fixture. The contractor or the purchaser bought a less quality fixtures. They pocket the difference because they don't pass you on the discount. And you at the end, when everything is done, you look at it and it's not really what you said. Call back the designer and say, hey, listen, these fixtures, you never told me that they would be, a condo for bugs. And you look at it and you said, how can that be? And then by then, everybody on the line has disappeared and you're stuck with the client, and you realize that, oh my God, there was there was a there was a substitution. And then you try to trace it, and somebody somewhere send you maybe part of an email saying that perhaps they would do that, or that could affect the delivery of the project, and on and on and on. And you as the designer were never part of that chain, or you had part of the data that you didn't hear about it after, and that's it. So having like having equivalent, I'm not saying that it's bad for a project, but 98% of the time it doesn't end well. So and in the future episode we'll talk about how we can remove remove and how we can do it, because there is proper way to do equivalency. Even in your own spec, you can say, okay, what is approved on my spec is A, B, and C. Don't come with a D, you know. And if you don't have a D, well, tough luck, you know. So so part of the game of equivalency is time, right? Uh, Contractor love to put time, add times, and I say contractor because I was a contractor, and that was part of my game too. Is that you add time to the project so that when it's time to deliver, or when the timelines are getting tighter, a decision can be made faster, and the process of approval goes way faster. Okay, does it have the same output? Yes. Does it have the same voltage? Yes. Does it have the same color? Yes. Does it have the and okay, I'll accept it. Or they'll say, send me the sheet, and then the procurement or the engineers or the designers are overwhelmed with projects, and they don't look at it immediately. They wait a day or two or three. Then the electrical contractor calls, or the general contractor calls. Come on, I gotta place the order. I gotta place the order. Okay, yeah, go for it. Send me an email. Send an email. Okay, it's approved. Boom, done. So there is different steps and different people that are also part of that, and that's why it has to be it has to be streamlined, and it has to be, if you're a designer, if you don't want to be removed from that process, well, guess what? You got to make time, and you got to you got to prepare for that, and you got to say, well, you know, it's not because people are making wrong decision intentionally, but there is mechanism there and process that if they're not in place or structure, what happened is that it doesn't protect your lighting outcome, and that will give you as the lighting designer a bad reputation. You know, it's, oh, every time I work with him, everything is late, his specs are not complete, he gives me the run around, they never answer my phone call one time, uh, because I was in a meeting or I was in a flight somewhere. So it is an ongoing um, an ongoing process, and also I would say it's an educational process, because if you tell your clients, and if you tell all your specification team, and if once you meet the electrician, you educating them, then you'll start to they'll see at the end that this is not like because you're a control freak. This is not because you have kickback from that company. This is not because this company, you don't want to work with these people. Sometimes it is because you had bad experience. They have bad customer service. They have bad pricing. So all of that, is part of your experience, and also your way of delivering your service as a professional, and also to the way that you're protecting your clients. I mean, this hard-earned a trust that you have with time, with certain manufacturer, with certain electrician, with certain distributor, with certain engineers, it cannot all goes from the window to the window because somebody new comes in and they reinvent the four-button hole, or they have a fixture that is miraculous and it's going to save the world. It there is characteristic that you want to make sure that are there. Example, an optical. You want to make sure that you have beam control, the edge definition, that the glare. So just this little paragraph on optics on a lighting fixture, as an example, can change everything else. Why? Because if you take these two fixtures side by side, close the light up a wall, and you look at the optics, same wattage, same housing, same output, but the way they built their reflector, the way that the source is positioned, the kind of optics, the glare, all of that can be night and day. Same fixture, same spec, well, same spec, same equivalency, but totally different different way to do it. And I'm not even going to go into each management, or the quality of the material, or the, like I was saying earlier, the maintenance, because on the same day they may look the same, but the quality of the seal may be different. So you have an outdoor fixture as an example, and they look the same. 6 months later, here in Florida, you have salt, you have you have hurricane, you have all kinds of stuff, sand, wind. The fixture, one looked like brand new, the other one looks like it's been on, was never there, was there for 25 years. So some of the characteristics that may look the same and uh, may seem the same probably can be totally different, because you don't know. And again, like I was telling you in a previous episode, sometimes what's happening is that I go to my jobs and I look and I say, oh, okay. And what really warmed my heart is that when I look at a project and I see the same performance on that fixtures. I look, and it does the job. It does what it's supposed to do. Sorry. So again, there is things that we see. There's things we don't see. Aging, it's impossible. Well, it's possible if we force aging in an oven and so forth, but for the normal people that are not in the testing industry or are not equipped for, you're gonna show me two fixtures. It's very rare that I mean, I can see the quality with my eyes, but sometimes you don't. And for a client, they don't see it. They may see, oh yeah, this one is more heavy than this one. I'll buy this one because I seem like I have more for my money. But the finish will be totally, hasn't been, it's not treated properly. It's not the right coating. It's not the way they clean it, and so forth. So it may seem the same. 6 months from now, it's going to be, a ruin. So now, if we have different behavior from fixtures, what is about you as a designer? What does it say about you? You send a client, your best business card is to say to a client, go to that place, if it's a public place, or go to that house you manage with the clients, and visit or talk to this contractor, and go experience it for yourself. Now imagine you send a client to a place, and there's flickering lights. There's some of them that are burned down. Some of them are peeling off. Some of them are sideways because the mounting plate gave in. One of the welding. It's just like you're not working for yourself. You're not helping yourself. You're just digging your hole deeper and deeper, and you will not get the project. And that's at the fixture level. As we talked about in the past episode, we talked about accessory and louvers and mounting, and and the integration with the architecture, custom colors. So all these elements are also part of the equivalency. Um, you may pick a fixture because it has an array of accessory that you can use to control your light, and give the experience to your client for the space. And instead of having one fixtures for this and one fixture for that and one fixture for this, instead of having a bunch of different fixtures, there's some fixtures perhaps that you can choose, that you can have different LEDs. You can have different mountings. They could be downlight, they could be uplight, they could be mount on as side, they could be on a bracket, they could be suspended. So all of these mounting options comes with it and has been taught ahead, and they look aesthetic and they fit and they're the same colors and the wire match the fixtures and so forth. Which in some case, when you have an equivalency, you say, oh yeah, by the way, these are suspended, and then you have a white wire with a gray fixtures instead of having a gray wire. It did happen to me. Or you say, oh yeah, we can do RAL, color, but they can't. Then they give you a color that doesn't match. So the detail are very important when we do equity, because that's what that's part of your choice, your initial choice. So it's not only a wattage, voltage, or lumen output that's important. It's really the whole ecosystem that's around, and that's why you pick up that fixtures instead of this fixtures, that manufacturer over that manufacturer. It's not because they give you kickback. It's not because you like them or not, which in some case you should, because if you had a bad experience with a manufacturer, there's two things to do. Either you stop, or you go and you confront them and you go to meet them, and then you talk and you say, how can we avoid that? I really love your product. I love the fact that you have all the lens, the louvers, and all the mounting, all of that. But the last time I received the orders, it was it didn't do what we wanted to do. And some of them were really poorly assembled, or some of them are this and some of that. So again, that the communication is the best solvent. And you'll see sometimes you will be able to expand your product base, because as a designer, which is, I often tell people, it's like there's a famous brand of tool called Snap-on. And if you look at Snap-on, you said, how can survive over time by selling, tools to mechanic? Well, Snap-on has such a variety of tools, and if you look for a half-inch socket or a half-inch ratchet, there's about 20 different ratchets. Why? Because some of them have orientable head, some have longer arms, some have shorter arms. So over the time, they developed this product line, which are all to serve the mechanic, and all their new venture in different scenario. And lighting manufacturer do the same. You can have one page for one projector and 5 pages of different accessory, mounting, color, finish, lens, all of that. So again, this is part of your toolbox, right? And it's important that when you do an equivalency, all of those things are taken care of. And that's why when you work with professional, they are used to that. And after 2 seconds or 3 minutes that we look at a spec sheet, I can tell you that this is a good product, or this is never going to make it, and they just want to run a fast one on me because they quote the job too low, and now they want to make up their loss on the product. And that they do that all the time, contractors. So let's talk about another subject that I really take dearly, is that, okay, now everything is done. They turn the light on, and then, the contractor is like, well, if you want me to change this, it's going to be an extra and this and that. And then the client's, okay, fine. 1 year down the road, now some lights start flickering. 1 year down the road, the colors start changing. Now, who's paying for that? Who's going to play, who's going to honor the warranty? The company that they bought product from no longer exists, been bought out by another one. They use different parts. So the aftermarket service for me is as important as the sales. And that's why, I work with reliable manufacturers, and I have a percentage that I use for new technology, new manufacturer, but it is an experimental part. It is for a special effect. It is for something that has not a big impact on the overall design. It has an impact because it will be used to create some kind of an effect, but it's not going to change the basic original concept. And anybody that had to go through a warranty cycle for lighting fixtures understands about that, because now it's not a question of, oh yeah, I'm saving $10. It's like, well, to go replace these fixtures at 50 feet in the air, I'm going to need to have a special piece of equipment that costs $1,000 a day. Oh yeah, by the way, you got to do this at nighttime, means that you got to pay your electrician overtime. And then it's going to take, we can only service 2-3 at a time, and there's 50 of them. It's going to take 3 weeks. And plus, where are we going to put all that stuff? And the insurance, and da-da-dee-da-da-da-da-da. So the decision that you're doing by accepting all these equivalency is a decision that continue after the installation. It's not just say, oh yeah, just go ahead, put whatever you think fits. You're gonna have to live with the life of the product. You're gonna have to live with just the life cycle of 1 year. A lot of things can happen, and God forbid that one fixture thing doesn't fall, because then you're done, right? And all of this is like I said earlier, it comes back to how many people they put in R&D, who's directing the company. It's funny. This weekend I was in LA, and I was talking to an agent rep, and when I look at his line card, it was fun because a lot of company that he was representing, I knew the owner, and I can tell by the list of company that they represent the quality of their agency. So again, I know that some of them have amazing R&D. They are good. They will go to a product evolution like nobody else. They're very consistent on their batch, because they understand that buying 1,000 LED or buying 2,000 LED may just vary the price in $500, but over 10 years, if they have to do replacement, or if they have to do match or this and that, they have the same batch. So they can, color match the batch that they have. Some have electronic system too, which is fine. It's perfect. And all that, gives you support over the life of your project. So all of that is that you're not only selecting a fixture, you're selecting a manufacturer philosophy. If they work with brand that you don't know, you never heard before, well, guess what? You got to do your homework, and it doesn't mean that they're bad, doesn't mean that they're not qualified, doesn't. But if you start doing your due diligence, and you find that the guy works from his garage, which is perfect, because that's where most people start, and you go and you visit his garage, and his garage is 20,000 square feet. It's a different than somebody that is just taking orders and sending somebody else, ordering from and selling, buying. I would have more confidence in somebody that I can see, that has tools, that can produce stuff, and that has the expertise, and that I can have a conversation, than that somebody that says, okay, I'll get back to you with that. I'll get back to you with that. I'll get back, because every time that somebody does buy and resell, if they don't have the answer, they have to go back to the factory that provide them, and then they better know the answer, because you can see also in the speed that they answer you. You ask a question, half an hour, a day later, you got the answer. You ask a question, 3 days later, you still don't have an answer. Well, here you go on the kind of service the after service you're gonna have, or if you need anything that's customized and so forth. So you started with the unequal fixture, right? And you just said, okay, well, it seems like it's the same. Then you make a decision. Okay, well, it's the equal price, and then you look at the responsibility. Right now, it starts to get fragmented. Now you start to think, well, maybe it was not quite a good idea, because who's going to take care of this? Who's going to take care of that? So fixtures are not equal, and manufacturers are not equal either. And this is why there's a certain gap in price point, and knowing that helps you to evolve, because after a while you're not really, this is not, for me, I never worry about the pricing from the get-go, because as I'm doing my due diligence, I want to make sure that I have the best product and the best solution for my concept. And once I know that, then we start to go into pricing, and then we start to go into all the other details. But if my first sheets of due diligence doesn't work, forget about it, right? So, and some of the economy comes from well, I'm doing a project, and multi-phases. So I'm going to be buying 1,000 units per month for 5 years. Okay, you know, just make sure that this is known at the beginning, so that the manufacturer that you work with can organize in that thing, in that sequence, and think in that time frame. Because what's happening is that if you start with a company and then midway, well, we run out of product, or the product are not the same, oh, by the way, we got an increase, and it all has an impact on your overall design. And again, you are the one, you are the specialist. It's not your client's fault. What they wanted, they hire you, you take the responsibility, you deliver. So there is a way that the lighting move from the spec, the way that you're specking, to the leadership, right? Because this is part of your job to make sure that this spec that you're doing is going through. You're putting all the value engineering. You're putting all the perhaps you do put some equivalency, and then you start delivering, and you don't do your audit. You don't look. Well, guess what? Now it's on you, right? Because if you didn't follow up, you didn't call your electrician and you say, well, I'm coming by, or I'm going to stop by the job and I'm going to look your what you're installing. Well, you're going to end up, with some difference that maybe not that are not visible, because sometimes you don't see. But when it's times to expand or turn them on, or with time, you see that, oh, that's not what I expect. But now you are 200-300 units in, and the substitution, you never followed you never realized there was a substitution. And I'm talking from real experience, because it did happen to me. And the simple reason how I found out was that I received a phone call from the on the job, and he said, well, the mounting frame doesn't fit. And I said, what are you talking about? There's no mounting frame. He said, yeah. And then when I arrive on the job, I said, okay, let me go check it out. When I arrive on the job, I look, I'm like, what are these fixtures come from? And then I see there's a whole pallet of them. And it's nothing that I didn't specify these fixtures. So somebody else did, and they had the wrong product. And of course, they ordered the wrong one, because it seems like they had the right wattage, they had the same voltage, they had the same, output, but it was not the same mounting plate. And in that case, they had to ship them out, and what we ordered. And then that added delay, because they placed their order, and they probably had these fixtures and some inventory that they bought from, at a good price, and thought, well, we can use those. But it didn't work. And what I did is I brought the client in, I brought the architect in, I brought the engineer, I brought the whole team together with the contractor, and I said, listen, this is what's specified. Did you ever change the blah, 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 blah? After a few minutes, they said, okay, well, we're going to order what we then I called back the distributor, and I said, didn't you think about those recess lights? He said, well, I kept receiving little orders for this and little order for that, and I thought the main order for the recess would come later. Never came. I said, I'll tell you why. Because they were giving you they were giving us an equivalency that didn't work. I said, now you can order for them. We need to accelerate this, because we don't want the project or the clients and penalized because somebody on the on the line dropped the ball, which was me. And I can live with that. I can admit that sometimes, yes, I make mistakes. But at the end, also I made sure to coordinate with everybody. Then I called the manufacturer. Then I called this, and I made sure that those fixtures would be on the job site very fast, so that there would be the minimum damage. And that's another thing that I talked to the contractor as a previous electrician contractor. I told him, I said, okay, I get it that you want to install those lights, but meanwhile install something else. I'll work in providing you with the right lights, so that we don't stop your job. And then for a minute he tried to talk, and then the superintendent look at me, and then they all look at each other, and they said, okay, that won't stop. I can start another section and do something else. Good, thank you. Right? Because the plumber was not finished, the other trades were not finished, and these lights, although it would have been nice, and it would have been a good time to start, they were not there. So I'm not going to have the project stop because something. Wow, that was awesome. That was fun. And I'm happy to be back. And the good thing is that tomorrow we are talking Wednesday about OEM. So tomorrow it's going to be a very interesting day, because these days I'm working a lot on that, and I want to share with you what I'm going through that process of OEM, and it's a lot of fun. So again, hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any question, you feel free to contact me. And if you want to watch the other episode, you can take your phone, scan it. It's on YouTube. Like I said, I'm putting more and more content, uh, and it's not easy to hear me. One thing I found, because even myself, when I fast forward at 1.25 or 1.5, I hear the great things that I have to say, like the bullet points, and I don't have all my French or my hesitation as a beginner on camera. So that could be a solution for you, and then you'll save. You'll have a presentation in 20 minutes instead of 40 minutes. So thank you very much for being there. See you tomorrow, and hope you learn.